And so coming at an angle right here, this is more superficial. So this can be the external oblique. Just deep to this is where we'd see this rectus abdominis, but also we see the internal oblique. And you'll notice the fibers are going the opposite direction like we saw with the intercostal muscle. So even more deep to all of this is where we'd find that transverse abdominis. And so we can kind of see those intercostals still. So here is the externals going this way, and then the fibers flip, and it's the internal. We also see serratus anterior kind of put everything together here. Now this is a really cool picture where it has all of these abdominal muscles in a different color, so you can just kind of see the fiber direction. In purple, we have the external oblique, and you see it coming at an angle. And so what this is going to be involved in is it's going to be involved in rotation of the torso and also flexion of the torso and compression of the abdomen as well. Just deep to it is the internal oblique right here, which is in pink. You can see the fibers going the opposite direction. And so internal obliques can do the exact same thing external oblique did. Rotation, flexion, and compression of the abdomen. Transverse abdominis is the deepest one in yellow. You see the fibers going just straight across, and all it does is just compresses the abdomen. That's all it does. So like if you're going to get punched in the stomach, if you brace your abdominal muscles, the transverse abdominal only compresses it, doesn't actually do any kind of movement per se. The green is the rectus abdominis here, and rectus abdominis, what it does is it causes flexion of the vertebral column, which is opposite of what we saw with the back muscles. Moving on to the anterior neck muscles, we're going to have a first muscle called platysma, and this is a really broad, it covers a large space, but it's really thin. It's so thin, it's almost paper thin in some people. And we'll see what that looks like here in just a moment. What platysma is going to be doing is it actually depresses the mandible. When your mandible is your lower jaw, so it's going to be causing it to go downward. We also have sternocleidomastoid muscle. So that kind of gives away what it's doing in the name itself. So it's going to be attached to the sternum, and the cleido means clavicle. So it'll have two heads there, and then it's going to go all the way back to the mastoid process. And so if you feel the big bump behind your ear on your skull, that is actually your mastoid process. So this muscle is going to go all the way there as well. And so as we take a look, we're seeing platysma right here. So this is the most superficial. So all the rest of the neck muscles are underneath platysma. And you can see it's really broad. It goes lots of different places here, but it's almost paper thin. And then over here, we have our sternocleidomastoid. So we see our portion coming off the clavicle. This one's coming off the sternum here, and it's going behind the ear to that mastoid process. So what sternocleidomastoid does is it causes flexion of the cervical vertebrae, and it also rotates the head as well. Now, just deep to these neck muscles, we're going to have all of these hyoid muscles. And our first one's called sternohyoid, and this will be superficial. And in the name of most of these, they kind of give away where they're going or where they're coming from. So this one is attached to the sternum, and it goes all the way to the hyoid, and it'll be superficial. And our first two muscles are going to work in a group here. Sternohyoid will be medial. Omohyoid is going to be just lateral, and omo means shoulder. So it'll have two portions, one in the neck region, the one that'll hook out deep to the shoulder. We also have thyrohyoid, which is going to go from the thyroid cartilage, which is the Adam's apple, up to the hyoid bone, and it'll be deep to sternohyoid. And we also have sternothyroid that'll go from the sternum up to that same Adam's apple thyroid cartilage, and that'll also be deep to sternohyoid. Then we're going to have a small muscle called cricothyroid, and this is going to go between the thyroid cartilage, that Adam's apple, and a smaller V-shaped cartilage that's more inferior or below the thyroid cartilage called the cricoid cartilage, and so that's where it gets the name cricothyroid. So as we take a look over here on this side of the screen, this is more superficial. So if you notice, this muscle goes from the sternum all the way up to the hyoid. And because it's superficial, I know that's sternohyoid. And what sternohyoid is going to be doing is it pulls the hyoid down. And then just lateral to it, we have our omohyoid. So we have a superior belly and then an inferior belly that goes up to the shoulder. And what omohyoid is going to do is the exact same thing. It's just going to pull the